This video was made possible by ExpressVPN. Start browsing the web securely with 3 free months by going to expressvpn.com/HAI. Using Google as a verb is a tradition as old as Google's tradition of avoiding taxes. Like emo bands, all denim outfits, and standing on rubble, Googling found its way into popular culture in the early 2000s. Famously, it was first used on television in 2002 on an episode of the newly problematic Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and that same year the American Dialect Society ranked Google as the most useful word of 2002, not to be confused with the most useful bird of 2002, which was obviously the vulturine guinea fowl. Just look at that plumage. That is a hot bird. By 2006, Google had been added to Oxford English Dictionary as a verb under the definition to use the Google search engine to find information on the internet. Soon, other brands even tried to get in on the action, leading to a 2010 episode of the TV show Hawaii Five-0, where a character says not at all casually, "You don't believe me? Bing it," in the most awkward piece of product placement until this exact mention of top-rated VPN provider ExpressVPN, available with 3 months free at expressvpn.com/HAI. Now, at first glance, you might think that the widespread use of Google as a verb would be great news for Google. But as Nicolas Cage and type 2 diabetes have taught us, you can have too much of a good thing, because it turns out that this gaggle of Googling is threatening Google's trademark. The 1976 LANHAM Act, the US's hottest, trendiest trademark law, states that, quote, "No incontestable right shall be acquired in a trademark which is the common descriptive name of any article or substance, patented or otherwise." For those of you who didn't major in skimming Wikipedia, that means you can't trademark a name if it's the commonly used term for a type of thing, the reason being that for something to qualify as a trademark, it must be distinctive, which is defined as, quote, "having the capacity for identifying and distinguishing particular goods as emanating from one producer or source and not another." In a nutshell, this is why you can't trademark the term garbage, as that commonly describes all trash, but you can trademark the term Taco Bell's naked chicken chalupa, as that clearly references a specific type of trash made by a specific company. And this is where big business boys can run into big business problems. If their trademark becomes so widely used that it no longer clearly identifies something as their product, but instead is used as the general term for that type of product, they can lose their trademark faster than I lost subscribers after making fun of the Second Amendment. Turns out those Second Amendment people get angry super easily. Good thing they all have guns. One of the earliest examples of this is the word escalator. Escalator was a trademark of the Otis Elevator Company since its debut at the 1900 Paris Exposition, and for the first 50 years of the escalator's existence, anytime somebody other than the Otis Elevator Company wanted to sell the world's lamest ride, they had to call it motorstairs or an electric stairway. The problem was, motorstairs never caught on with the public. Regardless of what company had made the steppy human conveyor belt, people called them all escalators, which is why, in 1950, a court ruled in Houghton Elevator Company v. Seeberger that the word escalator had, quote, "become recognized by the general public as the name for a moving stairway as the result of the registrant's course of conduct, causing the mark to lose significance as an indication of origin, and registration is thereof cancelled." This process of losing a trademark to widespread use has the forgotten MCU villain-sounding name Genericide, and like forgettable MCU villains, there are a lot of examples. Dumpster was once the trademark of the Dempster brothers, Zipper was a trademark of BF Goodrich, Flip Phone was trademarked by Motorola, and there are a ton more. Aspirin, yo-yo, teleprompter, superglue, dry ice, laundromat, videotape, and even heroin, which was once a trademark of Bayer. Seeing as Google only wants to be like heroin in terms of the YouTube algorithm's addictive power, not in terms of trademark genericide, the company has been sending out cease and desist letters to people who misuse Google since 2003. The first went to a blogger who ran a site tracking neologisms and claimed the term Googling was starting to be used to generically refer to web searching, and amidst their legal threat, they even included a helpful guide to proper usage, which included this 100% real example. Appropriate use, I ran a Google search to check out that guy from the party. Inappropriate use, I googled that hottie. In addition to not wanting you googling hotties, Google also wouldn't want you to say that hotties are, quote, ungoogleable unless you mean it literally. The Swedish Language Council learned that the hard way in 2013 when they attempted to define ungoogleable or ugooglebar as, quote, something that you can't find on the web with the use of a search engine, resulting in a cease and desist letter from Google, who complained that the definition said, quote, a search engine and not, quote, the Google search engine. In the end, though, even if Google does manage to protect their legal right to their trademark, they still shouldn't be feeling too lucky. After all, there are a ton of trademarks that are still technically legally enforceable, but have been rendered essentially useless. For proof, just look at Chap Stick, which is still a trademark owned by Pfizer. The thing is though, no matter what waxy tube I rub on my dry smackers, even if it's Burt's Bees or Blistex, I'm probably still gonna call it Chap Stick. And there are a ton more. Most people know about Kleenex, Band-Aid, and Xerox, but what about Styrofoam, Bubble Wrap, Jet Ski, Lava Lamp, Q-tips, and rollerblades? Unless your favorite social networking site is also the Wikipedia page list of generic and genericized trademarks, you probably didn't know that those are all still legally enforceable trademarks owned by specific companies. And if you did know, don't put it in the comments, I do not care. But it's not all bad news for Google. They still control 90% of online search, plus your email probably, and they can track everything you do on your smartphone, which actually, wait, that seems bad. Big tech makes a lot of their money off of your data, so it's probably time to put some protection between your online activity and these companies, and that's why I use ExpressVPN. When you run ExpressVPN on your device, the software hides your IP address, making your activity harder to trace and sell to advertisers, plus they encrypt 100% of your internet data to keep you safe from hackers and eavesdroppers, and all without slowing down your connection. Also, in a slightly less existential threat, big tech prevents you from watching your favorite video content in the countries they don't want you to, but ExpressVPN lets you route your internet through foreign countries where streaming sites' catalogs are different, so they allow you to get access to thousands of additional titles of entertainment. So, get better entertainment and data security with 3 extra months free of ExpressVPN by going to expressvpn.com/HAI.